Hey, this is Andrew Norp, and welcome to A Fool's Errand, a podcast where we plan to fail, make mistakes, and learn 12 skills in 12 months. It's episode 5, week 4 of Chess Mug. Today we're going to talk about learning to accept failure, what we would have done differently this month, what we've learned, and what we plan to bring forward in the next 11 months and 11 skills. I'm going to say it right out the gate here. This week, I did not get to 1600, which I admit is a little disappointing, but this week was really a process of learning to accept that sometimes you won't reach your goals. And as discussed in the first episode, the goal of this month overall was not to get to 1600, it was to get better at chess, and that was definitely achieved. I started out the week strong, excited, happy, went right in, and it was actually going great. I decided I would be playing 10 games a day. I thought maybe if I did that, then I wouldn't worry about each individual loss or win, and that actually worked. On Wednesday, I won 7 games in a row and got to a score of 15-20, only halfway through the week, and I thought everything was going to be great. But I discovered that, to my disappointment, getting above 1500 was harder than I expected. I kind of got stuck at between 1500 and 1400, just kind of bouncing between the two. Players below 1500, you have to kind of predict about 1, 2, maybe 3 moves ahead about what they're going to do to be able to counteract it. But at 1500 plus, you have to predict about 3 to 5 moves ahead every turn. And I just wasn't ready for that, and I wasn't trained with that. So, though I tried my hardest, and I do mean my hardest, I stayed up till 12 multiple days to try to play as many games as I could. I even decided to give it one last go on Monday of this month, the 1st. But I was never able to get to 1600. And I actually feel pretty fine with that. 1520 is a really high score. It's way higher than when I started. And I think with another week, I would have been able to get to 1600, a week of training where I could have gotten to that level. But that's not what this is about. This was never about getting to 1600. It was about learning, growing, and learning to accept failure. But I admit, I would have definitely liked to get to 1600. I'm disappointed and sad that I didn't. And there were times during the week when I was really scared about not getting to 1600, and times when I had to accept that, and that was painful that I didn't get to 1600, but really, I didn't. So what am I going to do? May as well get up, move on, and go on to the next thing. And when you embrace that you're going to fail, what can stop you, right? If you accept the fact that you are going to sometimes not achieve your goal, but you're still going to go for it as best you can, there is no fear anymore, and fear is oftentimes what makes you stop and makes you quit. If you don't succeed at the thing, you can just try the next thing, and you might succeed at that, or you might not, and you can go on to the next thing, and the next thing, and eventually you're going to succeed at the thing. One of the greatest quotes I've heard about writing: to write a good story, you must first write 1,000,000 bad stories, or I think it was maybe 1,000,000 like bad words or whatever, right? And I think that's a really true thing, which is like, to get to being good at something, you must be bad at it for a really long time. And that's kind of part of the process. And so if you just keep being willing to fail and keep doing the thing, eventually something's going to work, and that's going to be awesome. But like I said, I actually kind of came to accept that this week, and I feel pretty fine with that. I'm way better at chess than when I started, and I feel ready to go into the next 11 months and face them. So with that being said, what do I feel like I learned from this month? First off, I think overall, the biggest mistake I made this month, which actually may have even cost me getting to 1600, was that I was terrified of not reaching my goal. I was too focused in on this goal that I was anxious. I wasn't able to think straight or always make decisions straight, so I wasn't always going in with the best strategy. I played multiple games, which I shouldn't have played. I should have waited until I was more ready to play them, or when I was in a better environment, just because I was anxious about wanting to play. So in the later months, I'm going to definitely try to remember this is about the failure. This is about the learning as we go along. And I definitely learned a ton. I also learned, just like if I were to go back and like have all the knowledge I have now, that chess is not a game that can be won by just spamming it. Many of my problems in my life, I can just solve by just like doing them harder. You know, you can just like, just write more, work harder, like whatever, just like do the thing more. But playing more chess games is not actually always the solution, because sometimes you're not ready to play those chess games, and losing them will lower your points. And so that's a good lesson learned. Sometimes, even though it feels like the right thing to do, just go in and like spam trying the thing, sometimes it's a good idea to take a step back, let your mind be clear, maybe do a bit of study, and then go back and try it. Something else I think I learned, and I think I would have liked to have done, is thinking about it on a bigger scale instead of just thinking like, oh, I need to get to this score this week. It's like, what do I need to get to by the end of the month? And I don't have to immediately start playing games of chess, or I don't have to immediately like throw myself in. You can kind of more build it up because a month is kind of long in a lot of ways, but it's also really short in a lot of ways. And you kind of, I've learned a lot about how to deal with the length of a month, kind of getting used to that distance between me and the end of the month. And so now I can go into future months knowing how to deal with that, how to do that. I was thinking this week there were like hours where I was like, I just can't do it. I'm not going to be able to, like, I'm terrible at chess. I'm terrible. Nothing works. Where I felt pretty bad. And looking back at those, I really regret that. I mean, obviously, but it's not a helpful feeling. It doesn't help me win games of chess. It doesn't help me be happy. It doesn't help me learn from my mistakes. It's just despair is not helpful. So I think what one of the things this month taught me is when you get in moments of despair, don't like we all know this, but sometimes I think practice makes perfect to learn not to embrace them, to take a step back and really just be like, well, if you don't get to 1600, so what? And then you kind of like think that through and you're like, okay, but we'd like to, so what can we do to get there? Really, like, when I was able to think that way, it was a lot better and I could be a lot happier and actually be a lot more effective. My chess month was, in the end, I think, a success. I got way better at chess. I learned a ton. I had a ton of fun. And I never want to play chess again. No, I'm kidding. I was scared over the month that I would like hate chess, but I still enjoyed games to the very end. That is not to say that I'm not glad not to be playing chess. Was really intense. It'll be nice to be doing something besides chess. But I know a lot more about chess, about the chess community, about the whole idea of chess, and I was able to think about it and really just also learn a lot of things about myself through chess, about how sometimes I can be impulsive and I need to slow down and think about actions before I take them. And sometimes I can be too focused on the little details to not notice things like getting checkmated. And also, I just learned something about myself, which is though I love chess and I think I'm going to continue to play it for the rest of my life, I am never going to want to be a chess grandmaster. That has always been kind of the back of my head. I'm like, oh, maybe I could try to pursue that as a career. That might be something cool that I could do. I couldn't do it. It's not in me. I don't have that skill. The skill of being able to devote my entire life to a board game. Because in the end, chess is a board game. This week, one of my really low points, I was like, and I decided, and it was terrifying, but I decided to take a nap because maybe if I recharged. And as I woke up from the nap, I had this funny thought, and it was, wait a second, chess is just a board game. It's like a really beautiful board game. It's a really interesting, complicated, powerful board game. But in the end, it's just a board game. And I kind of felt weirded out with that idea. I'm like, people have devoted their entire lives to getting really good at this board game. But are they aware it is just a game which is played on a board? And I kind of realized that anything and everything can be beautiful and can be interesting if you look at it. So if a board game with a bunch of pieces with relatively simple rules can be beautiful, so can anything else you can throw yourself into. I enjoy chess more now than when I started the month. Like, I play a chess game and I have more fun. I watch chess like championship games and I have more fun with because I can understand how the grandmasters are feeling. And when I play, it's more of a full experience because I'm so inside of it. And I'm really looking forward to doing that with 11 more things, learning, do I like this? Do I want to keep pursuing this? And then also just knowing that world a little better. One of the side effects of this 12-month project is I'm going to be able to try 12 skills and see if I want to continue learning them, if they're interesting to me, if maybe I had an undiscovered passion that I didn't know about. I'm definitely going to keep playing chess. My plan in future is I want to play a game of chess a day, just a single one. I mean, maybe I can reach 1600 in 3 months or a month, or maybe it'll just take 2 weeks of playing a game a day. And I also want to teach my little brother Jude how to be good at chess. Jude's 8 years old, and he's the most patient 8-year-old I've ever met. The kid can just sit there and think, and some would describe him as like slow if they didn't know him very well, but it's not. He's not dumb. He just takes a while to do things and make decisions, which is actually like perfect for chess because really the biggest flaw almost all like children chess players have, and I think a lot of adult chess players, is they just make a move without thinking about it. But I've seen Jude play chess with like some of his siblings, and he'll just sit there and be like, I could do that, but then that would happen, or I could do that. And it's kind of like, it can be really annoying as the opponent, because you're like, just make a move already. But also, his moves are really good for an 8-year-old. And so really, he's got over the first hurdle of teaching a kid how to be good at chess, and that's being willing to think about his moves. And being the sweet kid he was, he loved that idea of getting to hang out with his older brother and learn chess from him. I think Jude has some potential to be really good at chess, and I think that'd be a really fun process to try to teach someone how to be good at chess. I've like taught some people like basic skills that I know just like as I play games with them. But I've never like actually like been a teacher to someone specific about chess, and I like the teaching process and the few times I've experienced it. So it'd be nice to take Jude under my wing and be like, I am the Jedi Master here, and I will train you to my mid-level chess player. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that goes, and if he likes it, and if I like it. And I'll definitely give updates on the podcast about where my chess rating is in the next couple months, and where Jude is, and it's going to be exciting. A ton of other things. I'm really excited about all these different projects I'm doing. And with that, why don't we talk about my plans for the next month, my hopes, dreams, and what I'm doing. You may remember that I discussed that I wanted to do piano in February. My parents bought a keyboard, like a piano keyboard thing. I don't know what the technical term is. This is how little I know about piano, but it's like a virtual piano, right? They offered to buy one for me and for the month and for the family. So it got here a couple days ago. I've been like doing a little messing around on it. I'm super excited to try to learn piano, but I realized that I want to really give piano my all. And this episode, you may have noticed, is coming out late, and that's because I had a super busy weekend with chess, and then I have to edit and upload this, and that takes like a whole day. And so that means and then I'll be like super exhausted, so I want to have at least a day break. And so that means by the time I start on piano, I'll be like halfway through my first week, and February is the shortest month in the year, and I haven't even gotten around to asking a piano teacher to teach me piano. And so they might take like an extra week to schedule out, so I won't even really be able to get started until a little later, and I don't want that. So I decided to switch piano with the month after it. But for now, I'm going to switch it with the March month, which is one of my chiller months, which is to memorize and learn all the history and ideas surrounding the Constitution of America. For all our non-American listeners, you might not know what the Constitution is. You probably do, because American politics is like everywhere. And it seems kind of unfair that like y'all have to hear about our politics all the time. But you know, it's like the most important document in American history probably, that is like what our country is built on. And I don't know that much about it, embarrassingly enough, even though I would like to. And I think it's really important to. I'm like, I don't know. It tells us we have certain rights. The only amendment I know which one it is the Second Amendment, because we're always talking about that. I don't even know what the First Amendment is, okay? I'm aware we have amendments, and I know what some of them are, but I don't know what order they go in. And I know some facts about the Founding Fathers, but not as much as I would like. So I want to get to know the Constitution, know the history around it, know the ideas around it, and my like main goal is to memorize the Constitution. Now, I set this goal before I knew like anything about the Constitution, before I knew like how long it was. And I've done some research, and by research I mean I Googled it like for 5 seconds and discovered the Constitution is like 5,000 words. Actually, let's look up exactly how long it is. Oh, look, it's 4,543 words, which, I mean, that's a fair amount of words. That's a lot of words. But it's actually, when I thought about it, not that long, because my Ghost Walks, which I have memorized and I would do on a weekly basis, were 5,000 words. And I memorized those in like 2 weeks. Granted, their words were smaller words, and they were less fancy words. And I could change them, right? Like, I give a Ghost Walk every week, and sometimes, or quite often, I bet I change sentences, order, and all this stuff, because all that really matters is the general stories. But I did have them memorized. I normally said pretty much the same thing. So memorizing a 4,543 word document is not out of the question, especially if you have an entire month to do it. Because memorizing the Ghost Walks only took me about 2 weeks, and I didn't even spend that much time on them, because I discovered I hate memorizing things, which I've now devoted an entire month of my life to it. So, you know, maybe I should have learned my lesson there first off. But I think one of the main reasons I hate memorizing things is because, or memorizing my Ghost Walks, is because it's something I made. And so when I'm memorizing it, I'm wanting to like edit it. I'm like so used to when I read my own stuff being like, oh, I should change that wording up a bit or something like that. And it's also kind of boring because I've also spent weeks and months editing and researching them. So I already know them pretty well. And maybe that's one of the reasons they were so easy to memorize. It was so quick is because I wrote them. So they were already kind of in my head. The words were my own. So the Constitution will probably be harder, but I think it'll be a little more interesting to memorize because it's like a new document with new ideas, and I'll be learning all the history around it. So I'm going to have to come up with a plan of how to memorize it. I don't have a great plan yet. I'm going to have to develop that, but I think at least I'm going to read it once a day for the entire month, and then I'm going to be studying history around that, and then I think I'm going to probably like have certain set days to read it like through, and I'm going to be listening to it while I'm like on walks and doing my chores, going into town and stuff, so I can kind of really get it inside of my head. And my end goal is by the end of the month, I can recite the Constitution on the podcast, and then maybe we can even have a guest on who can ask me questions, and I can answer any question about any part of the Constitution, like what it means. I'm super excited about this. I've always like on the back of my head been like, I wanted to get around this, but I never really got to. And that's gonna be a lot of these months. I've always wanted to try to see how good I could get at chess if I devoted time to it. I've always wanted to play piano. I've always wanted to wood carve. I've always wanted to try to film a short film, whatever. But I'm just like, I'm just do it later. But now I'm kind of having to do it in these like set periods of time. And I've always wanted to understand the Constitution and the Founding Fathers, but I've never really gotten around to it. I've just incidentally learned about it while learning about other parts of history or like while visiting, museums and stuff. You kind of pick things up, but I've never really devoted time to learning about it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to have to be studying how to memorize things quickly and effectively, which is a skill that can be applied in a lot of parts of life. And I know there are like systems to memorization. I tried to use one once on a ghost walk, but I got annoyed, so I just quit and I just read it a billion times until I could say it. But I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna study and look for ways to memorize things, and then hopefully by the end of this month, I will have the Constitution memorized. But that is not my like goal. My goal is by the end of the month to better understand the Constitution, which once again is an inevitability, right? Because I don't understand the Constitution very well right now. And if I'm going to spend a month studying it, I'm going to get better understanding the Constitution, even if I don't have it exactly memorized with like no slip-ups. But by doing that, by going for that goal, I'm guaranteeing that I'll know the Constitution better, right? That's the goal of this year, right? By the end of the year, I will be better at all of the 12 skills, guaranteed. I will know more about them. I will have learned a ton. Maybe I will not have achieved all of the ideal outcomes for them, right? My ideal outcome from chess was 1600. I didn't get there in January. Actually, I might get there later in the year if I just play a game a day. But I didn't get there. But I will definitely end 2021 way better at chess than I started. I will definitely end 2021 having know more about filming short films than I started. I will definitely end 2021 knowing way more about the Constitution than I started. And way more important than all of those individual skills, I will know more about how to learn and how to fail and how to get back up when the world knocks you down than I started 2021. This year project was I was going in so I could get like knocked down and I could learn to get back up, right? I was knocked down a ton this week. There were parts of the week where it was painful, where it was difficult, where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do these 12 months. I don't know if I have this in me. I think I'm going to fail at all of them, and I'm going to look like an idiot in front of the podcast listeners, and all my friends are going to think I'm dumb, and I'm dumb, and I'll never learn anything, and I'm terrible, and why did I even start this? But I got up, and every time I get up, I'm going to get a little stronger at getting up, and eventually I might not even get knocked down as much. So that's what I'm going for. And speaking of getting knocked down, let's have our little segment of how I failed this week. Everyone, welcome to our segment of How I Failed this week, where we discuss one way I failed, or a plurality of ways, and what I learned from that. I think one of the ways we discussed earlier for the entire month, and maybe we can just have this segment be how I failed this month, because it's kind of the end of the month. And I think the main why I did was I was too scared. Fear does not help. Someone discussed this. I think it may have been the Vlog Brothers, Hank and John Green on YouTube, but they talk about how you kind of have like two types of fuel. You have like fuel efficient, healthy fuel that may not burn the hottest or the quickest, but it's stable. You're going to be able to run a long time on that. And then you have like the dirty fuel that is like bad for your engine, bad for you, but it can sometimes burn really bright, really fast. And I think sometimes stress and fear can feel like a really strong fuel, and sometimes it is. It's true. You can go really fast on terror for a couple minutes or a couple days, but in the end, you will definitely get farther on a healthy, strong fuel. And I even thought for a while that, like a year ago, I'm like, oh yeah, of course you'll get like farther if you're like being efficient and like, not burning out. But like sometimes you need to burn out. Sometimes you need to like that stress to keep you going. But actually, most of the time, the stress fuel is strong in one moment, but for the rest of the time, when it's there, it slows you down. So that one moment of like super speed is not worth it for the tons of time your engine is braking and going very slowly on this terror. And also, when you're not motivated by stress, you can still have those moments of super speed, but they're excitement and like obsession and just going for it. You struck by the muse or whatever, and you can just fly in. A quote I kept thinking about this week is from Dune. I know I'm such a nerd. Dune is oftentimes said to be the best sci-fi, or my brother compared it. He's like, it's the Lord of the Rings of sci-fi. It's a very fat, really good and in-depth, interesting sci-fi book. I love it. I only read it recently in December, but I am now really excited for the movie that's coming out and all that stuff, reading the later books. But Dune has this quote that it says all the time in the sci-fi world. It's a mantra of these people called the Bene Gesserit, who are supposed to be like super efficient and powerful and whatever. But the quote is, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone will be nothing. Only I will remain. It's a powerful quote. When you jump into something that terrifies you, it can stretch you, it can help you grow. And if you make it through the fear and you defeat the fear, not it defeats you, then you can learn so much. And that skill of defeating fear can help you in your entire life, because fear is everywhere, right? Anything that is good you could do with your life has fear in it, right? There is nothing, any interesting and successful lifestyle brings a lot of stress and fear. So you need to learn how to control that and not let that defeat you. And I think during the chess month, there were plenty of times where it was defeating me, where it was winning. And I need to learn, and I think the biggest mistake I made was letting it defeat me and thinking that it defeating me could help me, that fear could help me, but it couldn't. It can't help me. So I need to learn in these future months not to let fear control me. And I am so sorry that these podcasts keep coming out on like Tuesday and Wednesday. Maybe I should just accept that though I'm going to try to get them out on Monday, that is my ideal outcome, since the podcast is secondary to the project, or it is a expression of the project. Sometimes, if I'm really busy with the project, the podcast might come out a little late. Though I will try my best to get them out on Monday in future. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of A Fool's Errand. We will have another one out next week about my beginning the process of memorizing the Constitution. So sorry that they keep coming out late. If you guys want to contact us, tell us what you're doing, any projects you're pursuing in 2021, or any ideas, suggestions, or feedback you have, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us at a Fool's Errand pod on Twitter or a foolserrand@gmail.com. You could also leave a review on wherever you get your podcast. That would also super help support the podcast. So I'll see you all next week. As always, love y'all. Keep failing. One failure down, 11 to go.